Welcome to Into the 99, where we have 99 cards, Commander's number 1, and I'm one of your hosts, Brian.
I'm another one of your hosts, Zach.
And I'm Daniel, and today we're coming to you with a deck tech on Clerics, because why not? The buy a box topper from Zendikar Rising is out. We already said that we were excited for it, so Zach, intro us into the product.
So, as you guys know, if you listened to our last episode, Ora is like one of the most exciting legendary creatures for me out of the set, so I brewed a deck for it. We are dealing with Cleric Tribal. I was talking to Brian about it earlier. Of the clerics that are in here, there are going to be 7 non-cleric creatures, but their power, I think, that they bring to the table is going to be, worth it. So, for those who might not know, Ora Skyclave Hierophant, I think is how you say it. I don't know.
Hierophant,
yeah. 2, a white and a black for a legendary creature core cleric. He's a 3/3 with lifelink, and it reads, whenever Ora or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric card with lesser CMC from your graveyard to the battlefield.
I have to say, Clerics were, one of the actual, tribes that I made when I first started playing around the standard time frame. So, Legion and Onslaught and everything, because of there's just so many great clerics that came out. Battlefield Medic is one that I've said repeatedly. I'm really excited to look at this deck and see what's going on, because clerics hold a place in my heart from where I started playing Magic.
Yeah,
much synergy.
You were saying before that they had this was one of the main tribes when you first started.
Yeah, basically, there's so many tap prevent damage clerics that you can sit there and not have to waste or chump block or anything, because I don't mind taking 2 damage because I can prevent 4 of it.
My little brother loves that archetype of just the protection. He's a big fan.
Yeah, because there's Battlefield Medic, which is, I think it costs 3, but its ability is tap and prevent X damage, where X is the number of clerics in play, or clerics you control. So you can block with the creature, and then I'm going to prevent an additional 9 damage.
Yeah.
My creature lives, and your guy does nothing.
It's true. So Zach has a little bit of a different take on it, so I'll let you kind of explain where you're going with the deck.
So when I was thinking clerics, this commander's already kind of in my wheelhouse. You guys know how much I love any kind of graveyard recursion.
Reanimate!
Exactly. I want to reanimate everything, and it has that nice aristocratic package all in one thing. So when I was kind of brewing the deck, I wasn't really sure how hard I wanted to lean into one or the other. So I just kind of got greedy and decided to do both as best as possible. So with Ora, we're able to constantly recur clerics that are lower CMC than a cleric that died. So we're going to take advantage of that, as well as an attrition-based thing where, we're gaining life and you're losing life. As far as I'm aware, I didn't put any infinite combos in here, intentionally. If you see something, I assure you, it wasn't a big brain thing. It was something that's happened accidentally.
Yeah, an accidental interaction.
Yeah, so just let me know if we start talking about something, or if you guys listening realize something, and we'll kind of go from there.
Those right there are my favorite infinite combos. Oh, I didn't even know. Thank you for telling me how I kill you.
Right. I'm a pretty big scumbag when I play Magic, but I try not to be when I brew the deck.
That's fair.
So we've got it broken down. Whenever I build decks, I always have them in different sections. So, where do you guys want to start off?
Wherever you lead us with this one, because you're the one who put it together. Let's just start where you think.
Okay, so I want to talk about how we're going to gain life, because like I said, this is a reanimator deck, but it's also going to hinge on life gain. And there's some really cool cards that we get access to that are clerics that I kind of would have passed over. Now, this section is going to be dealing with a couple creatures that aren't clerics, but to get the deck to work in the attrition-based style I wanted to, they were just too good of cards not to add. So the first card that people might not be aware of that just recently got printed in a Mystery Booster is Ancestors Prophet. 4 and a white for a Cleric Lord. Tap 5 untap clerics you control and gain 10 life.
Yes, legions.
It's also a 1/5, so like big butt, and just tap 5 and you gain 10 life. Like this deck is going to amass a lot of creatures on the board because that's kind of what we want to do.
Yep.
And then we just gain 10 life. Like Brian was talking about earlier. We can eat 4 damage from an attack, and then at the end step before our turn goes, if this guy's on the battlefield and we have the creatures for it, we can just gain the life back. Well, gain the life back and then some. So that guy's in here. We're going to be running kind of like the Soul Sisters package. So we have Ariak Champion, white, Human Cleric, 1/1. It has protection from red and black. So it's kind of a nombo if we're targeting it with something specific, like on the field. But, from graveyard, this won't have any issues. It reads whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may gain 1 life. We see the same thing with Soul's Attendant and Soul's Warden, Soul Sisters. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, gain a life. They're all 1/1s for 1 aside from the champion, and they all gain us a life. So that incremental life value, we're going to be using it for different things in the deck. But really, we just we don't want to lose our creatures until we're ready to lose our creatures. You know what I mean? Like, I'll let something die when I feel like it.
I like that.
I love being empowered that way.
Yeah, it's cool too because like we're playing such low CMC creatures because we want to constantly, our commander's 4, so we want to be able to constantly recur back our clerics. It just so happens a lot of the clerics that are going to gain us life are low CMC, so it kind of works that way where we don't want to lose them until we have like a 3-drop or like a 1-drop that we can shuffle them around and bring them back. Another cleric that we're getting to use that's new is Cleric of Life's Blood. It's a white and a black. It's a 2/2 vampire cleric, and it reads, whenever another cleric enters the battlefield under our control, we gain 1 life. Like I said, the vast majority of creatures we're playing are clerics. So pretty much it's like we play a creature, we gain a life on top of all the other incremental life gain. And it says whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on Clerics of Life's Blood.
So it has a pretty good chance. It has a pretty good chance to actually get pretty enormous.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have there's so much like incremental life gain. There's so many silly things. We just get like there's so many cards in this deck, and it's really silly that just have gain a life for just playing the game, basically.
Yeah, and I guess one thing to call it. So you mentioned that there's 7 total non-clerics.
Yeah.
So and you're running 35 creatures. So yeah, like a majority are going to be clerics. And then the other ones are just synergistic.
Yes. Like that leads us into the 2 of the 7 that aren't clerics. We have Corpse Knight and Cruel Celebrant. Neither of them are clerics, but they're both a white and a black. Corpse Knight says whenever another creature enters a battlefield under our control, each opponent loses 1 life. Playing creatures on our that we control, we're going to drain someone. Awesome. Cruel Celebrant, whenever Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker we control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and we gain 1 life. So once again, we're draining and gaining off that card just by doing what the deck wants to do, sacrificing our creatures for advantage or to just get some kind of use out of our creatures again. Like it's basically like, well, got nothing to do right now. I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice this creature for card draw, life gain, mana, whatever we might need for that turn, gain the life, and let someone lose life. This package I think is really fun, and they're low CMC, and 2, like they're also very cheap. Like as far as like money goes, like this is kind of a budget friendly deck without me making it a budget friendly deck, which is also kind of fun. With a new commander, you'll be able to get these cards quick.
Like it's just roughly $400. That to me would be roughly a decent budget.
Yeah, and like a lot of that stuff. A lot of stuff you don't necessarily need that we're going to talk about, but a lot of it, like there are definitely budget friendly options for some of this stuff. Does someone want to take over the drain aspect of the deck?
No, go ahead there, Brian. Sure.
So the one card that I want to start with is the one card that I've been wanting to build around Ann's Veto, the Thorn of the Dusk Rose, and I did not know he was a cleric.
Yeah. Vampire cleric. He's a really good one.
Yeah, he is. So, cost 2 and a black, legendary creature, vampire cleric. Came out in M21. And it's whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So if you're constantly bringing in creatures, sacrificing creatures, draining people, whatnot, you're going to gain it, as well as you're going to just so many drain like stacks on someone or each opponent. So, and then he also has 3 and 2 black. To creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. Like, I'm just gonna gain some more life and drain you, even by just attacking. So it's, you can go in a lot of different routes, especially if that creature is getting big for every creature that comes into play, or every time you gain life. Yeah.
Well,
there's some other really. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say just the mana sink on him as well is a great ability.
Yep. Because if you have nothing to play, you can at least get your creatures big and swing in, or give them lifelink, and swing in, or block, give them lifelink, gain the life, and then just cause someone else like, how dare you attack me? You take all that damage.
Lifelink is great. I'm looking. I'm not seeing Doubtless one. I don't know. Carry on with the drain. No, I was looking for Doubtless one. That's a cleric.
Oh yes, for the X for the number of clerics in play.
Yeah.
So we have Archfiend of Despair, which is 6 and black. It's a demon, and it's flying. Your opponents your opponents can't gain life, so you're stopping them from even gaining life, but you can. And at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn. Yeah, okay, I could see it being rather, especially if you're paying everyone.
Yep. Well, just the ability to that's not just the life you make them lose, right? Like, they're losing life for, if Zach has this out and I hit you for 15, you'll still lose 15.
Yeah, but I'm just looking because it's each opponent, right? So if he's doing 2 damage each turn by either a creature coming in or a creature dying, that's gonna be 4 damage because it's gonna get doubled at the end of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that's really nice. Yeah, I'm really enjoying that aspect. Next up, we have Blind Obedience, which is 1 and a white. It's an enchantment. It has Extort. And Extort's a great mechanic for any black-white deck, even if you have 1 or 2.
Honestly, if this card just was Blind Obedience, 1 and a white enchantment, and just had Extort, it didn't even have the rest of the card on it, I would have played it in this. That's why I really played it. Like, the rest of it's kind of whatever. But the Extort literally is like why it's in this deck.
Yeah. It also has so like Zach mentioned, if it didn't have this ability, he would still play it. So this ability is artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. And again, another bonus, if you're going to be able to play your creatures really fast. And then if you get this out early enough, they're all coming into play tapped, and you can still get in with your clerics to even cause more damage.
Oh yeah.
So this was another new cleric that we got because of Zendikar. It looks kind of low impact, but a couple of seeing how it works with other cards, it seems to actually be really strong. It's Marauding Blight Priest. It's 2 and a black for a vampire cleric. It's a 3/2. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So this just cares about each incident, or each time we gain life. Not necessarily how much life we gain each time, but just each little instance of life gain. So we can, if this is on the battlefield, it's not unreasonable. We can be making people lose 6 life and gaining 6 life.
So you have an infinite combo between Veto and that card.
Is it?
So whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. And then with this one, it is whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Wouldn't that just keep going on the stack?
For which one? What's the 2 here, Brian?
Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm misreading. Nope. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I tried very hard to avoid anything like that, but I could see where that could go, but I just think it's another good incremental, it's not a taxing effect. It's just if you're gonna do something, I'm just gonna keep gaining life, and you're gonna keep losing life.
Mm-hmm.
It's also kind of cool because, like I said, it seems like a low impact card until you start seeing it on the field, and it's one of those cards I feel like it could end up making someone have to wipe the board or deal with it, and there are plenty of other creatures in this deck that you'd probably rather deal with. So I kind of like that it's like a lightning rod unintentionally.
Yeah.
Really nice.
I do like removal targets.
Mm-hmm.
They save a lot of other important things.
Yeah, bait someone on a card that you don't really care about.
Yeah. So continue here, Brian.
So we got Pontiff of Blight, which is 4 and 2 black, and it is a zombie cleric. It has Extort once again. Oh, I didn't know Ixalan came out with some Extort things.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly, I've missed this.
No, that's from the Orzhov guild kit.
Oh,
is it? Okay, it looks like the sun, so that's where I was like,
it's very close.
but so it has other creatures you control have Extort, which is amazing. If you just have a bunch of empty mana, you can cast one spell and just tap it all out for Extort for each thing.
This next one's actually one I'd never seen before. It's Relic Vial, an artifact for 3. It has pay 2 and tap, sack a creature, draw a card, which is a great ability, especially if you can recur things and you want things to re-enter the battlefield. But it has a secondary ability. As long as you control a cleric, Relic Vial has whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. And that can be
I like
that can be really, really threatening for a board wipe late game.
Yeah, I really like that actually.
Yeah, that's a very cool one. Is that from this set?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I hadn't.
It's a cycle that we actually see in the artifact section. There's a bunch of different relics, and there's one for each different
major
party
type.
Yeah, they centered it around the party members this time around. So clerics, rogues, wizards, warriors.
That's pretty cool.
Each one has their own unique relic.
And this would go actually really well in my Yawgmoth deck because I'm just constantly sacrificing stuff.
Yeah, and he's a cleric himself, so as long as he's on the battlefield, this will happen.
Yeah, that's very true. Oh, and then obviously we're going to have Sanguine Bond.
Yeah.
3 and
any life gain shenanigans is going to run this card.
Yeah, it's such a great card. And you know what? I definitely thought it was a rare. Did not know it was an uncommon in the Master set.
Sanguine Bond's an uncommon?
Yep.
Yeah.
Icon Masters had it come in as an uncommon. I don't know why, but it is.
Ridiculous.
I tend to like playing Sanguine Bonds more than Exquisite Blood because typically that's the combo you see. You see Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bonds. I just like Sanguine Bonds. Not only is it a budget thing, but also Exquisite Blood. I feel like you kind of have to be taking damage, whereas Sanguine Bond kind of rewards you for just building a deck to gain life. You know what I mean? It rewards you for playing the way you want to play.
Yeah.
If you're winning, you're not behind to try to catch up.
And next we got Suture Priest, which is 1 and a white.
Love it.
Creature cleric. Yeah, I was getting pinged by this one the other day. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may have that player lose 1 life.
Big pain.
Yep, just everything that comes in or dies, someone's losing something.
Yep.
That's the goal, essentially.
That's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
It's like the best versions of a mono black cleric and a white cleric. You know what I mean? If we look at in D&D terms, that's what a cleric wants to do. They want to gain, they want to protect people, gain life, whereas a black cleric wants to hurt people.
Yeah.
I've never seen this card. Wound Reflection?
Wound Reflection's awesome. They just reprinted it in the
Double Masters.
Yeah.
And that's why I included it.
And new artwork.
Yes.
Yeah, I've never seen this card. So it's 5 and a black. It's an enchantment. And at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses the life equal to the life they lost this turn. Again, it's just doubling whatever they took. So if you're draining someone for 5 or just foolishness. So what? If you have both of those triggers out, 5 damage turns into 10, turns into 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I could never really, as dumb as it sounds, I couldn't afford Wound Reflection for a very long time. But when Archfiend of Despair came out, that was a more budget-friendly version. So, and it's a creature. You guys, I recur everything. So, creature, easy target. Wound Reflection now being cheaper and easier to get our hands on, both they work way too well in this deck not to have.
Well, they did make a lot of those. The only one that didn't really drop in price was Mana Reflection. And I can see why Mana Reflection is just too good in too many things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, especially in ramp, could have that out pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. It's you can pretty easily get it out like turn 3 with Selvala or turn 2, and it really goes crazy from there.
Yeah, it becomes ridiculous. So that was it for our drain section. I'm gonna touch on the card draw section. I'm not gonna go too heavily into it, but I will hit the cards that I think are kind of better. We'll just hit clerics basically. So the first one is custody lunch. Custody Lynch is 3 black for a zombie cleric. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch, and whenever you become the monarch, target player sacrifices a creature. It's a 4/2. So I really like the monarch mechanic. It's a different way that we get to draw cards in Orzhov, and with it being a cleric, I mean it's a 5-drop cleric, which is kind of above where we want to be. We do have some clerics that are, I believe, 6, so we can get back Custody Lynch, but just being able to, become the monarch when we feel like it and make someone sacrifice a creature is really good. If someone's playing a Voltron deck and you can't really target something, this is a good way to, well, I'm the monarch, go ahead and sacrifice your commander.
Sacrifice hurts no matter what it's hitting. Even if it's your worst creature, it still hurts.
Mm-hmm. And we want to see creatures die in this deck, so that's also helpful. Not just our creatures, but other people's creatures as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The next one, I haven't got to play with this card yet, and this card seemed to be like a good place to put it. It's Mangara the Diplomat, 3 and a white for a human cleric, a 2/4 with lifelink. Whenever an opponent attacks with a creature, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or a planeswalker you control, you get to draw a card. And whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card.
I've seen someone draw a lot of cards off of this creature.
Yep.
Like,
it's a very solid cleric.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's nothing bad about this card. We have lifelink, great. We want to gain life. If we get attacked, which we'll probably get attacked, so people will keep our like life total in check.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just draw a card for that, and then people just playing spells, we're gonna get to draw a card. Like, this card is always going to be useful. I just don't see a situation or a board state where this card isn't useful. Even if we're ahead, people are so that's almost seems like a better point for us to be playing it, because people are going to try to do everything they can to slow us down or keep our life totals in check or what have you. We're going to be able to draw cards.
If you're gaining a lot of life, people are going to assume that you have the Aether Flux, mm-hmm. and they're going to want to attempt to keep your life total underneath that 50.
It gives them something else to focus on too, right?
Exactly. All right, so that was Mangara. Another really fun cleric that whenever I can play this card, I try to. It's Twilight Prophet. It's 2 a black for a vampire cleric. It's 2/4 with flying. It has Ascend. If you don't remember what Ascend does, if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. And Twilight Prophet reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is a card CMC.
I've never seen this vampire before.
It's
like I've bought so much of Ixalan, and I never got one.
It's always a case card, Brian. It's real expensive, but it's because it's got such a powerful effect. I finally found one the other day, and I bought it instantly.
Yeah, this $22.99 American, so we'll assume $30 moose bucks.
I think it was 35 or 36 when I bought it. It's definitely a strong one, but
it's so good, and it's like a reverse Dark Confidant. Like, when you think about it, right? It functions like Dark Confidant in a way, but we're gaining the life, and the opponents are losing the life. Like, you have to have the City's Blessing, but with our CMC being so low, getting the City's Blessing is not going to be hard.
It's also fun to just yell bless up when you get it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that I don't have this in Mogus. I'll be honest.
It's a very good card, and especially the bigger CMC stuff you run. I actually just put this in Crab and Regna, and the big enchantments, like pulling off something that's 6 or 7 for an enchant and draining people like that is pretty brutal.
Yeah. And, it's also letting us draw an extra card at the beginning of our upkeep, like if we have the City's Blessing. So, like, that's something to be said too, is that we get to draw a card at the beginning of our upkeep.
Well, like you said, compared to Dark Confidant is going to be a lower CMC, but this card is stronger, like, if you compare them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's on our cleric.
It's on theme. it works in every way for this deck, but just like, a flying 2/4 for 4 isn't a bad card. And then when, like you said, you have the City's Blessing and you get all of that extra card draw and life gain and life drain, it's such a good all-around effect for any deck in this kind of theme, but especially in this Cleric theme.
Yeah, I was excited because I was on one of the first cards when I saw this commander. I was like, yep, Twilight Prophet instantly. I'm putting it in here. So
I love that a lot of vampires are clerics.
Oh yeah, Ixalan had a lot of
very religious vampires.
I'm probably gonna do at some point an episode on just like the Ixalan vampires in general because it's a really, really cool set.
Like, yeah,
their lore is just phenomenal, and I just love it.
I guess one thing I'll drop is the Lorbrarians or Lorbrarian.
Mm-hmm.
He did a whole history on Ixalan.
That's cool.
And just the vampires are so interesting, and I love the art because they look like a bunch of conquistadors. They look like they
that's what I was gonna say. They're very unique. Like when we look at a lot of vampires, a lot of them are kind of pretty typical, but when you compare the Innistrad vampires versus the Ixalan vampires versus the Zendikar vampires, you're getting very unique looks. Oh no. I'll be right back.
We will remove that from the video. But yeah, they look, the Ixalan vampires are so cool. I really love the flair and just the difference from everything else.
Well, they are just really cool in general. I actually the Alenda Duskrose, the deck became so much more interesting to me when I found out the lore behind them and what's going on it.
Oh, really? And that's really the Trin Silvar deck. The story behind it really inspired me to make that deck.
Oh, trust me. We'll do Alenda. She actually is a lot more relevant now with Commander Death Change. We're just going to go through a few of these quicker. So we've got Vanquisher's Banner, which is a 5-cost artifact. As it enters, choose a creature type. Creatures of that chosen type get 1/1. Whenever you cast a creature of the chosen type, draw a card. Honestly, one of the best tribal spells that I believe exists. It is just overall a great card, and it fits so well into this card draw. We have Village Rites, which is an additional cost. Sack a creature, draw 2 cards, but if you're able to recur, not a big deal. And then we have Yawgmoth, another big cleric.
My boy!
Yeah. So, Brian, you go ahead with Yawgmoth here.
So, Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, is 2 and 2 black. Legendary creature, human cleric. First thing, protection from humans. So, by playing my Trin Silvar deck against this guy would not be a good time.
Well,
but then the next ability is
human.
Yeah, that's true. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card.
Very good
or
card.
Pay 2, discard a card, and proliferate.
Yeah, it is.
So many abilities on one guy.
He's weaker Urza, but he does have a lot of real good abilities stapled onto him.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like the only thing I want to talk about really in ramp is probably about 2 cards. Black Market, 3, a black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add a black mana for each charge counter on Black Market.
Yep.
Our creatures are dying, other people's creatures are dying. This is going to net us a lot of black mana. So, that's good. We're running different altars, obviously, because we want to be able to sacrifice our creatures whenever we feel like it and gain off of them. Ashnod's Altar getting us 2 colors mana, Phyrexian Altar getting us 1 colored mana.
Yep.
The one that I really want to kind of touch on in our ramp package is Pristine Talisman. It's 3. You can tap it to add a colorless and you gain a life.
It's a very good card in life gain.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's an incidental thing where we just are playing the game and then gaining life out of nowhere. This is going to trigger something, and we're going to gain life, and someone's going to lose life.
So many things that trigger and make someone lose life.
So one of I'm looking at creatures now. We already talked about Angel of Destiny in our Zendikar spoiling episode. It is an Angel Cleric. It is in here. I put it in here hoping to get to play with it. I don't know how long I'll get to play with it, but it's in here. Go
Very
check
cool
out
card.
that.
Instant target removal.
I think we've said literally everything we need to say about this card. Definitely go check out our episode to get a feel for it. So we're just I just wanted to point out that it's in here.
Yeah, we'll breeze past that one. Archangel of Thune's next, and I
Here.
love Archangel of Thune. It's
Yeah.
3 white for an angel. Flying lifelink whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, which is nuts, especially in a deck like this where you're running, like you said, the whole like Soul Sister package where every time a creature enters, Suture Priest, etc., you're gonna pump these creatures just to a point that's absurd.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable for you to be able to kill someone with a Suture Priest in this deck, like on its own.
Oh, yeah.
With Archangel of Thune out.
The next
That's
one's
terrible.
a really good card. Brian, you take this one.
This one will be the Battle-Tide Alchemist.
Yeah.
Cost
It's
3,
crazy good.
2 white. I haven't seen it yet, so see all the surprise on my face.
It's gonna tilt you.
Creature, Kithkin Cleric. If a source would deal damage to a player, you may prevent X of that damage, where X is the number of clerics you control. Yes, this is like the exact same ability that the creature that I love. Amazing.
This is
Like,
so Jacob plays with this one a lot, so I have a lot of first-hand experience with how this works. It's each source. So if I try and attack with like 10 10s and you have 10 clerics out, you can prevent all of that, and it's not to, it's and it's not to you. It's to anyone you choose to politics with this. So if I swing at Brian, Zach can choose to prevent 10 damage to each of the creatures, seeing if he has 9 other clerics. It is bonkers. It's a very, very strong card.
We know I'm not going to prevent damage, Brian. But that's not a realistic scenario.
Yeah, it's a really, really strong one. Like Jacob does work with this card every game, and yeah, you'll sit there and you'll try kill someone and he'll prevent it all.
$1.50.
Oh yeah, it's not a very well played. Clerics just don't really get the love that they deserve.
So
There's so many good clerics.
No, there's
speaking
so
of
many
clerics
ones.
that don't get like love, this card, Children of Korlos, 1 white for a human rebel cleric, a 1/1. You can sacrifice it. You gain life equal to the life you've lost this turn.
Yep. That's a very good one, especially with the recur package. Like that's a really good protection for yourself.
Is there like other rebel creature types?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch. Rebels definitely a creature type from the old sets, from the old days.
Yeah, so this is good. Like you guys talked about Aetherflux Reservoir, it's in here. This is a situation where if you Aetherflux and it goes poorly for some reason, Children of Korlos, just you're fine.
Yeah. Well,
You
even
know
if
that
you go up to 150 and you Aetherflux 2 people and then you sack it, gain your 100 life back, bonk.
Yeah. Yes, it's very cool. Dan, do you want to talk about the next new one or next
Is
card?
it life lost with that guy?
Yeah, the life you lose, it's very, very good.
Oh wow, yeah.
There's, did you run Tainted Sigil in here?
I didn't. I thought about running Tainted Sigil because it's one of my like more favorite cards, but since we're not playing green,
Oh yeah, you can't really recur the actual sigil itself. It would be a one-time.
yeah, that's why I felt Children was better because
Children is better in general. Like the ability to bring it back, and everyone knows white can recur a 1-cost creature from the grave, no problem.
Yep.
So the next one we do have is Drown of the Blood Chief, Last Blood Chief, the legendary from Zendikar Rising, or not? Yeah, legendary mythic from Zendikar Rising, Vampire Cleric, awesome, 3/5/5, and it's whenever it attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary card in your graveyard, you return it to the battlefield with 1/1 counter. If it's a vampire, in addition to its other types. That is just a great way to also pack more recursion in. It's still going to trigger your commander's ability if it does die to bring something else back. Like this is overall extremely solid in the deck.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Brian, you want to take this card? You've been talking about it a lot.
The best cleric out there, or I'll say the best lord. So it's Edgewalker. It is 1 colorless, a white and a black, and it's cleric spells that you play cast Orzhov less to play. So 1 white, 1 black. So if it's So all those 2 costing creatures that are white and a black, free, or I'm paying 1 mana. Like, so good.
Our commander becomes 2 colorless to cast.
Yeah, this effect reduces only the amount of colored mana you pay. So again, like, amazing. The best lord by far for any. Well, like, Undead Warchief is still pretty good, but this guy is just...
Edgewalker's very good.
Yeah.
So the next 2 clerics are kind of just for funsies. Giver of Runes 1, Core Cleric 1/2. Another target creature you control gains protection from colorless or from a color of your choice on a turn. Just protection, pretty fun.
Do you have other runes in here? Because isn't she just 1 white?
She is, but I like the fact that you can do colorless or colored, whereas Mother of Runes is only colored.
Oh, gotcha.
This blocks big old artifacts.
And the Eldrazi.
Yeah, the Hanwire Militia Captain is actually another really cool one. It itself is not a cleric. It is a soldier, but it does have a cool effect. It's the beginning of your upkeep. If you control 4 more creatures, transform it. Transformed, it is a cleric. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control, and at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 white and black human cleric onto the battlefield.
Oh, nice. I love token generation.
Yeah, a very good card.
So this next card is a pet card of mine. I run in a lot of different decks I care about sacrificing creatures in. It's Sadistic Hypnotist. It's a 3/black for a minion, so one of the 7 creatures that's not a cleric. It says sacrifice a creature. Target player discards 2 cards from his or her hand. Play this ability only anytime you could play a sorcery.
Yep, great card.
Yeah, you can just tear people's hands apart with this deck, or with this card, and most of our clerics are going to come back if we have our commander on the battlefield anyways, so there's just no downside to this card, really.
Well, removing someone's answers is pretty rough.
Yeah. It's a good way to close out the game, honestly.
Selfless Spirit is a great card. It is a cleric. It can be brought back. Sack it. Creatures you control gain indestructible till end of the turn, which is going to be just an extremely powerful effect in this deck.
Yeah, if you have no graveyard or graveyard hate, this deck is probably going to run over you.
Yeah, you got to Bajuka Bog him.
Yeah, and even then, it's like you really have to time that Bajuka Bog.
You mean that 4?
The Tabarak, Hope's Demise. 2 and a black, legendary creature, demon cleric, flying 2/2. Has lifelink as long as it has 5 more 1/1 counters on it. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a +1 or put a +1 on it. If that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. If you do, you lose a life. But again, with how much you're drawing in this, it's not going to matter. This is another extremely good card for this deck.
Or Hope having a demon after her.
Yeah, that's Hope's Demise.
Yeah. It's such a shame.
Yeah.
So outside of that, we'll like we talked about, we have Aetherflux Reservoir in here. If you don't know, it's 4 for an artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. So that is already good on its own. But you can pay 50 life, and it deals 50 damage to target creature or player.
A good way to close any of the decks out.
Yeah, it's one of those cards that we see it a lot in life gain decks, and I couldn't see a reason not to play it. It's a good finisher. If we're dirtling too much and the game's going kind of too slow, we can just end the game with this card.
Well, there's no good reason not to run it in a life gain deck.
Yeah, I like I said, it's just a good way to close out games, especially for us. And board wipes are going to happen if we can't restabilize. This is a good way. If we're far enough ahead, we can take out whoever we need to.
Have you heard of the Dark Supplicant, Zach?
Is that the one where it's the you can exile it, or if you cast it from your graveyard, you can exile and get a demon?
No. So it is 1 black creature cleric. It's not uncommon, but you tap and you sacrifice 3 clerics, and then you search your graveyard, hand, or library for a card named Scion of Darkness.
Oh yeah.
Put it to play. It's just if you want to be able to kill or get rid of if you want to sacrifice your clerics or those tokens that you're creating with the other person, you're able to do that and then get the 6/6 demon with flying. I do believe.
Yeah, I thought about it. It was just kind of like one of those things. I was on the fence about it, so I kind of went with just different cards. It's also very good. The cool thing with this deck, like like what we talked about, the Scavenger deck that I built, there's a lot of different things you can change in and out. There's a lot of different ways you can focus this deck. I just couldn't decide between two things, so I made I did the life gain and recursion package in a way that I felt made the most sense.
And I feel like if I was to make this type of deck, I'd probably still go white-black, because white-black clerics, they're just so much fun. But I think I might go with like a little bit of a Staxy route, because with clerics you can easily prevent your damage.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you're just gaining life off of creatures coming in or creatures dying, whatever it is, then you can have those enchantment pieces or things along those lines to double that damage, or Aetherflux. But you would be able to sit back and kind of pillow fort with like Ghostly Prison, or like we mentioned, the Battlefield Medic, or one of my new favorite cards, the Battle-Tide Alchemist.
Yeah, it's a very good card.
Like, just I'm gonna attack you. No, Maze of It.
You definitely can attack me. Yeah, go for it. I'll just prevent the damage
and gain it, and gain the life, and then I'll Aetherflux you.
So, one of my new favorite cards is in the reanimation package. We talked about it also on our Zendikar Spoils episode, but it's Agadine's Awakening. X black for a sorcery. You can return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different CMC cost. I'm sorry, CMC X or less. Like this card, when this card was finally spoiled, like I was losing my mind. It is so powerful. And if for some reason, like you just don't have anything in your graveyard and you need a land, you can play it as a land instead, because it's one of the flip ones.
Yeah, or you open a hand and you have this card and no other. Well, you got a lot of cheap spells, but like you can use it as a land, pay 3 life, have it come into play untapped, and off races.
Honestly, the life, like losing the life, can actually be beneficial in this deck. Like this is this 3 damage could actually turn into a lot more damage if you lose the life to have it come and play untapped, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of a fun card for this.
Well, then you can get your life back. Yeah.
Another one of my pet cards, and like I talked to you guys, I had to resend the deck list because I completely forgot I didn't put this in here, was Cauldron of Souls. It's a 5-cost artifact. You can tap it and choose any number of target creatures. Each of those creatures gain persist until the end of the turn. If you don't know what persist does, when the creature dies, if it didn't have any -1/-1 counters on it, you bring it back from the graveyard with a -1/-1 counter on it.
But then you can give it a +1/+1 counter with that other spell.
Y'all.
And just keep doing it.
Yeah, Cauldron of Souls is great. I love it. I put it in a ton of my decks that care about creatures dying and recurring them.
And then you have Null Priest of Oblivion.
Yeah, this card's sick.
Which is 1 in a black. It is from this new set, the Zendikar Rising set. Yep. Kicker 3, or sorry, 8 cost, 1 in a black, Vampire Cleric, kickers 3 in a black, Menace or Menace, lifelink. And when Null Priest of Oblivion enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. I like stuff that brings stuff back to the battlefield and not to my hand.
Yeah, I'm very bougie about that. You won't see cards that are like goes back to your hand. No, it's coming. If I'm playing it, it's coming straight back to the battlefield.
It's the only way to reanimate.
Yeah, right. And that right there leads you into the next card. How about you take that one, Dan?
No, you take that one here, Brian.
So I'd like to put on to Reanimate is our next card. Costs 1 black, and it is put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost.
One of my favorite cards ever printed.
It's a good card.
Very good card. And it does carry the price point of $11 American, so like it's one of those ones to really speed something up. Pitch something to the grave, get it in on turn 2 or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's real good.
And you know what? I've seen this guy, or lady, I don't know which one it is.
Whisper?
Yeah, Whisper the Blood Linguist. Liturgist, whatever. I'm going to have to Google that. 3 in a black.
I'm going to have to fact check you on that.
Legendary creature, human cleric, Dominaria, uncommon. Tap, sacrifice 2 creatures. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. There's a lot of decent stuff to reanimate in here, and like you can pitch those clerics that you're making, those tokens.
That's what Zach does. Zach animates.
Yep. Sure.
So
we need someone. Zombies need a little bit of love too, yo.
Hey.
Or the undead, I should say.
Kels loves them very well. So that covers our reanimation package. We have two more sections I want to go over kind of quickly. We have our removal package. You see the typical like stuff you would see in Orzhov, but there's a couple I want to point out that I feel like are more interesting for this deck. The first one's Attrition. It's a one black enchantment that reads 1 black, sacrifice a creature, destroy target non-black creature. This is just another way we can, use the extra mana we're going to have, and it's another way for us to get our creatures back into the graveyard to use them again. Honestly, if this was just like 1 black, sack a dude, I probably would play it anyways if it had no like anything else to it. But destroying target non-black creature is relevant. Black does run a lot of commander, but you're going to run into decks where black isn't being played or a creature just isn't black. So this is going to hit a few different things. Demon's Disciple is a new human cleric out of Zendikar. It's 2 and a black. It's a 3/1, and when it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. So this is along the same lines of the family we've been seeing with like Fleshbag Marauder and Plague Crafter and Merciless Executioner. It just so happens it's a cleric. So recurring this guy, I'm excited about. Like, I want to constantly be able to bring this guy back out of the graveyard with my commander's ability or just something. Yep.
And I've totally even realized that every time you sacrifice a creature, it just comes back. Or you're able to search for something with lower CMC, sorry.
Yeah, you got it. But that's cool,
I keep forgetting about that.
This next guy kind of works with that. High Priest of Penance is a white and a black for a human cleric 1/1. Whenever High Priest of Penance is dealt damage, you may destroy target non-land permanent. So this hits everything. And it's a 2-drop, so if this is in your graveyard and you play Demon's Disciple, you can sacrifice Demon's Disciple and bring High Priest back.
Didn't even realize that. That's really nice. That's really good.
It's very good.
And then, like, we have the normal package of swords and Anguish Unmaking. Also Austere Command to get rid of the pesky artifacts or enchantments.
We have the last cleric to talk about for this section is War Priest of Thune. It's 1 and a white for a human cleric 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may destroy target enchantment.
So yeah, War Priest of Thune, 1 and a white creature human cleric. When War Priest of Thune enters the battlefield, you may destroy target enchantment. Do you know what? That's the one thing that white's really good at is removal of artifact or enchantments. And did this come out in the same set as the Angel?
Which Angel?
Thune?
Oh no, just the names. I'm not very good on the lore for Thune.
No,
but
neither am
I know it's a reoccurring thing. I believe this came out in one of the core sets. This just came back in Eternal. This one's just from Eternal Masters.
Okay.
So that's the majority of the deck. I only want to touch on a few of our lands that I think are relevant. We are running the Juka Bog, like we've talked about. I don't want to get blown out by another graveyard deck. So we're going to get rid of their graveyard. One of the new pathways being Bright Climb Pathway, or I don't know what the other one's called, but it comes in as either a white or a black.
I really like these lands. Like, it just makes it makes sense to just have a basic plains or something like that, but it does help with like Field of the Dead and things along those lines that have the different card names. But like the art for this is just
I like having the option at the end of the day, you know.
And it helps like because you get to flip it, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a black mana, I'll flip over to the grime climb pathway.
I think that's what it is. I couldn't remember. Another one of our utility lands is High Market. You can tap it for colorless, or you can tap it and sack a creature and gain 1 life. It's a safer sack outlet, with it being a land. Typically, people in our format, we're all kind of bad about it. We don't play enough like targeted land removal, so this card is probably going to stick around and enable some plays that probably shouldn't have been allowed to happen.
Yeah, like I unfortunately don't run enough like I have 2 strip mines, but I should be running like the other ones that cost more, like
Mm-hmm.
or not cost more, but like what are they?
Like Wasteland and
Yeah,
Dust Bowl and
yeah. I can't remember the other one. It's not one of the ones that you just mentioned, but yeah, like tap 2, tap it, or sacrifice it to blow up target land.
So one of the last 2 lands I want to touch on, Phyrexian Tower. You can tap it to add a colorless to your mana pool, or you can tap it and sack a creature to add 2 black to your mana pool. Another probably safe land that you're able to sack a creature for and incur more value than you would normally get. And this last one I didn't know about until I started doing research on Clerics, but it's Starlit Sanctum.
Love that card.
It's so cool. I didn't know it was a
Oh
card.
yeah,
And I started looking, like, I went to Gatherer and typed in Clerics and, like, went through a bunch of stuff. And I saw this and I was just like, this is insane. So it's tap to add a color to your mana pool. You can pay a white and tap it. You sack a cleric, you gain life equal to its toughness. You pay a black and tap it, sack a cleric, and target player loses life equal to that cleric's power. We've already talked, like, you guys have seen where we can make clerics very large in this deck.
Oh yeah.
Having a sack outlet's already awesome, but to be able to either gain life or lose life or make someone lose life, and we've seen too, us gaining life is going to make someone lose life. Someone losing life is going to make us gain life. So either way, like, this card is going to do exactly what we want to do in this deck.
yeah. Though it's just another way to even late game to finish someone off. Like, oh, you only have 5 life. Okay, pay it black. Do. You lose 5 life. I gain 5 life, and I'll make you lose another 5 life for good measure.
Yeah, I like it because it feels like a very petty card.
You're speaking my language.
Exactly, like that's what I'm all about. Oh man, you gonna path something? Nah, you lose life.
Not up in here.
Oh, you're gonna shock in a land? That's fine. Path my thing anyways. I'm gonna gain life because you lost life.
I have to say, I have to give you props for really, you put clerics or like your trigger cards into like your removal section, because typically I would most likely just run like generous gifts, swords of plowshares, and what's the other one?
Path.
Path. Because they're just faster. I do end up giving someone a 3/3, but I didn't even know that there's clerics that had this type of removal. But I do like the War Priest of Thune because you're able to hit that enchantment.
It's nice too because it being a 2 CMC, it really, like, I try to make the deck as synergistic as possible, right? So
yep.
There are a lot of lines where we can, 3-drop. Granted, our commander has to be on the battlefield, but 3-drop cleric dies, get our 2-drop cleric. Maybe it's Thune if you need it at that time, or something else. 2-drop cleric dies, we can get our 1-drop cleric back, which you guys have seen. We have a ton of 1-drop clerics. So, like, I try to kind of make it like a birthing pod deck is like how I approach it. So it's a toolboxy deck. But a lot of our clerics, I could have probably done a little bit better with some CMCs. But a lot of our CMCs are relatively the same. But it's also kind of good because it leads to a lot of really interesting like chains that you can go through.
Yeah, because you can just stagger down the CMC and pick cards that are situational for what you have to deal with.
Yeah, and this is how I like brewing. Like, pod decks are one of my favorite kind of things to build. If I can have something similar to that, I always have a really good time building it. And that's how I felt building this deck. I was like, oh, that's what this is. It feels like exactly like that. And it deals with a try that is already really good. And I was surprised. Like, I was kind of talking poorly about Clerics the other day, and Hope checked me on it. And like, I give her props because like she's right. Like, clerics are solid. I was excited because of the new clerics. I didn't realize like how good the old clerics are and what creatures actually are clerics.
Legion, Onslaught, Scourge, amazing clerics.
Get up in those old binders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the foiling on them is amazing. Like the older with the like shooting star on the bottom and all that. Like the old foils are very, very pretty.
Dan, you've been playing since the birth of Magic the Gathering. Do you have
Since the birth of rocks?
Yeah. Do you have any cards that aren't on this list that you think would work well?
There's one, I can't even think of the name of it right now, but it's not Doubtless One, but it's one that's similar where you're able to switch your power and its life, and it has lifelink. That's a really good one.
I know there's a avatar like that, and I thought about putting it in here.
Yeah, I thought that one was a cleric, so I could be wrong.
There definitely is one. I'm on the search rate. Boop.
It's a rare out of Dominaria. It's a legendary creature.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay. I was thinking of the Doubtless One. Yeah.
What's the card, Brian? If you got it pulled up.
Oh no, I searched up Doubtless One.
Doubtless One's also a very good one.
3 and a white. Doubtless One's power and toughness are equal to the number of clerics in play. Whenever Doubtless One deals that much damage, you gain that much life.
I actually don't know if we went over it, but also the Heliod that just mana sinks into clerics.
Yeah, I thought about that one too. I just kind of wasn't. I don't know. I just kind of wasn't as pumped about it. I guess. It's not that it's bad by any means. I just was kind of unsure. Basically, is all it came down to.
Oh, it's all good.
So it was on my little, like, I make a little maybe section when I'm building decks as well, and that was like on there, and I fought with it a couple times. It was the same thing too. Like some of the utility lands, which I'm kind of big about utility lands. I thought about putting Hall of Heliod's Generosity in here
just to get those back if you wanted them.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if there was enough enchantments to take up the slot, really, But it just kind of comes from needing to play the deck,
Yeah,
I just haven't got the chance to yet.
We haven't. You haven't tested it yet, so you got to play it to see what cards work well, what cards don't.
Yeah, I did not give you much time to make this deck.
It's fine because like I already started brewing. Like as soon as I saw the commander, I started brewing before Zendikar was done getting spoiled. So like I already had a good chunk of this deck done. I was kind of just waiting around. Dan, the card you were talking about is Evra, Helicon Witness.
Yeah, Halcyon. Yeah, is that an avatar or is it?
Yep, it's an avatar because I thought about putting it in here as well, but I still think it could be a good slot. So for the viewers at home, it's 4 white for a legendary creature avatar, 4/4 with lifelink, and you can pay 4 colorless. You exchange your life total with Evra's power. So it's another one of those that nets you just absurd things, and with the amount of life that we have, and even the ability to make Evra big, if something was to go poorly and you switch the power, it's not that unreasonable to like be left with a decent chunk of life.
Oh yeah.
Well, you could You could attack and then do the switch if they don't block it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
There's that. I also thought about putting Hatred, I think is what it is in here. Let me see if I can.
Hatred's definitely an expensive one, but it's a good one.
Yeah, so Hatred is 3 black for an instant. You can pay X life. Target creature gets +X/+O until end of turn. We have so much lifelink. Our commander has lifelink. Like, we can easily, pay the absurd amount of life that we're gonna have, hit someone, gain the life back.
I could see Daniel and his brothers. I'm gonna gift 39 +O to my creature. I go down to 1 life.
That's sometimes how we do it.
It's cool. There's, like I said, this this commander is very interesting to me. Like Orzhov obviously cares about life gain. Orzhov cares about taxing people. Like I didn't put in Sanguinate. I didn't put in Debt to the Debt list. I didn't do the big black mana package. But you can do those things. There's not a right or wrong way to brew this commander by any means. It's just the way that I did it. But there's a lot of different, like there's honestly a lot of different ways you can go with this guy, and it's super exciting. That's another reason why I was just pumped about it, you know? Like, it's just so much fun.
Yawgmoth is a cleric. I didn't even realize, or it didn't click in.
Yeah, same thing for me. I had to type in Clerics on Gather, and then I was like, man, I feel like an idiot. He's so powerful.
Sure is. No, I love seeing the way that you brew the decks, and I have to say that how you set them up on Architect, I love the grouping on how you break everything down. Absolutely love it. I love the setup.
If I don't do it this way, honestly, like I have a hard time. So like it's like how I like brewing, you know, like you said, I do it for all my decks. If you know, if anyone's ever interested, they can easily go and they can look at my deck and you can see where like I have how I brew it. You know, like I have my own little sections that talk about what we're doing and what the cards are in that section for. Because I think it helps too. Like if you see a deck and you just see it as like, you know, instant sorcery, what have you, it kind of gives a hard time, like, as you know, figuring out what the deck is supposed to do. You know, not everything is always straightforward.
Well, and they will be able to. They'll be able to go down to the link in the description.
Oh yeah,
and
the deck list will be up, so definitely take a look.
Yeah,
and who knows? By the time that you take a look at it, it might have changed and been upgraded after a few games.
You know, I attribute a lot of like how I build to like reading a lot of CEDH primers, because they do a very good job of like, hey, this is, you know, here are your combos, here's what you're tutoring for. So like I always try to build that way. Like, here are my sections. It might not be as like, you know, as intense, but that's kind of where this kind of building comes for me.
Yeah.
So final thoughts on the decks?
I'm very excited to see it. I think it's going to be a really fun deck. It's the ability to just have such a strong reanimator and life gain package built into a commander. Like, obviously, this was a deck that just had to get built. Like, this is such a cool overall card. And the fact that it's a box topper, it has such, like, amazing alternate art that's, like you said, you get for... It's not going to be an expensive card with its widespread availability.
Yeah, I'm very happy and excited for people to get their hands on this and see it across the table. And maybe it'll bring a bunch of people into, you know, the Orzhov Council.
Well, and I like a lot of theme decks like that. Like, that's solid.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I always like to brew. It doesn't feel forced by any means. Everything feels like I try to make it as synergistic as possible. So even if someone was to sit down for the first time and play, it might be overwhelming as far as like the triggers go, but it feels like it would be a like very smooth running deck. I don't think there'd be really too many constraints.
No, I'm very excited to see it play.
No, like we mentioned with seeing your other reanimator deck, the partner one, and seeing it play on the stream, like I can again see this one being just like it, like where we're blown out the water with it and surprised and going, well, time to build this deck.
Yeah, I'm excited. I have to wait. This deck will probably be maybe next weekend stream or the following weekends, because I don't have everything right off the bat.
Don't have all the pieces together.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a couple things like as I was building, I found like, you know, more spoilers came out, and that honestly did shape how I end up, you know, finishing the deck out. That I was like, man, if I'd have known this is how it was going to be built like a couple weeks ago, I would have already ordered these cards, because it wasn't really a price issue. It was more just like not having all the information there yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, this will be on stream, and hopefully I'll crush you guys with it.
I'm very excited to see that.
Challenge accepted.
Brian, do you want to tell everyone where they can find our stuff?
Sure.
I'm going to roll it here.
So you are able to find our content first off on our website, into the99.com. You can find our podcast, our articles written by our wonderful authors and friends. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of the major services.
Yeah, anywhere that you consume audio.
Exactly, and as well as you can find this video, we're recording our podcast right now. It will go up on YouTube, and as well as we put all of our stream games onto their YouTube, as well as Patreon. If you want to support the show, if you want us to keep coming to you doing these, feel free to sign up there. There's lots of beneficial perks, and yeah, enjoy. I don't think I missed anything.
Where do we stream, Brian?
Have a good one, guys.
Oh yeah, you can find us on Twitch, Into the 99. Coming to you with EDH games every Saturday from 6 to 9 Mountain Standard Time, or what is it, 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time?
Yeah, for us in Nova Scotia.
Have a great day, guys, and thank you so much for listening.
Bye, guys.
Peace.